Bitcoin is going absolutely parabolic. The number one cryptocurrency by market cap is up nearly 2.5x in the last year alone, and it's just claimed a critical level of $50,000 per coin, which is the first time we've seen this price since the last bull run in 2021. And let me tell you something, that's incredibly significant because Bitcoin is potentially giving us a clue that it might do something that it's never done before, which means we could see prices higher for Bitcoin much sooner than people anticipate inside 2024, breaking out of the traditional 4-year cycles. And almost everybody who's trying to predict what's going to happen in the crypto markets could be 100% wrong. So I'm going to explain exactly why in this video today as a blockchain developer myself who's been through multiple crypto cycles ever since 2017. I'm going to explain exactly why Bitcoin could reach much higher prices faster in 2024, how high it could go, and why everyone could be wrong about this. So trust me, you want to pay attention to this. So if you're new around here, hey, I'm Gregory, and on this channel I turn you into a blockchain master. So if that's something you're interested in, then smash that like button down below for the YouTube algorithm and subscribe. And while you can definitely make some handsome returns in the crypto markets, the best way to make life-changing money with crypto is to double down on your technical skills and become a blockchain developer. And I can show you how to do that step-by-step from start to finish over at dappuniversity.com/boot. All right, so let's talk about Bitcoin and how it's acting kind of crazy and doing things that, nobody thought was possible. So as always, a disclaimer in this video is nothing I'm saying is designed to be financial advice. I'm not trying to convince you to buy or sell any cryptocurrency based on this information. But let's start off with the conventional wisdom of the crypto markets. So most people in crypto sort of have this assumption that Bitcoin somewhat predictably follows these 4-year patterns or the 4-year cycle thesis. So basically, roughly every 4 years, Bitcoin, prints this parabolic, bull run blow off top, followed by, about 2 years of downward price action with a bear market. And then the game just sort of starts over again, resulting in this predictable roller coaster cycle that perpetuates off into infinity. And they attributed this to many different factors. One of the biggest ones is definitely the Bitcoin halving that happens every 4 years, where every 4 years, basically the amount of new Bitcoin hitting the market every single day decreases by half, and that reduces the supply of new Bitcoin hitting the market. And if the demand stays the same or increases, then the price goes up. And the next Bitcoin halving is coming up in just a few months. And the big assumption is that after the halving, that's when things start to get kind of crazy in the crypto markets. That's when Bitcoin slowly starts to grind its way up towards new all-time highs. And that Bitcoin is probably going to follow this same 4-year cycle and break its prior all-time high at the end of 2024. And that's when the real bull run gets crazy. But what if that's dead wrong? Because if you actually look at what the charts are saying right now with Bitcoin and the momentum that it has, and you compare it to previous cycles, it's hitting some pretty critical levels that might suggest that we're actually ahead of schedule and that Bitcoin could break all-time highs before the halving. And that if that's true, that we're not really in a 4-year cycle anymore, we're actually in something much shorter. So let me show you what that signal is. So the real signal is Bitcoin breaking the $50,000 per coin mark, about that range, okay? So why is that significant? Well, this is roughly 2/3 or maybe about 70% of the prior all-time high. And if you look at what happened in the previous cycles whenever Bitcoin did this, assuming that it had very strong momentum, that it did not take the cryptocurrency very long to go from about 70% of the prior all-time high to the previous all-time high. So once Bitcoin had that momentum, which it clearly has now, back in 2020, basically it reached that, 2/3 to about 70% level in November of 2020. And basically the next month, that's when we broke the prior all-time high. And that's when the real frenzy started, where Bitcoin started printing multiples of its prior all-time high. And that's when the crazy bull market froth began. And now I've noticed these types of patterns myself and put them out there as possible alternatives. And again, I want to be very clear in this video, nobody's got a crystal ball to know what happens for sure. But I did put this tweet out recently saying that, crypto markets have a funny way of punishing the majority. It seems like the majority thinks we're going to have these traditional 4-year cycles with new all-time highs later this year, and that the market's going to just dump back down before that happens. But, what if we just keep going up? Well, Bitcoin does, in fact, continuous momentum from this price level, just like, previous cycles, then we could be, maybe a month or two away from doing that. Now, I want to be very clear that I'm not the only person that thinks this way, okay? I did come to these conclusions of myself, but I've also found other analysts like this one who's quantified this in a little more detail, kind of talking about the golden ratio of 0.68, which is about what I was saying before, about 2/3 or 70% roughly. And you can see the prior cycles, when that price level is reached and then retested and confidently broken out of. In previous cycles, it was 57 days after the halving, 163 days after the halving, 163. But now we're minus 66 days before the halving. All right, so if what I'm talking about indeed does play out, then what type of prices could we see for Bitcoin inside of 2024? Okay. So what I'll say here is I'm going to lay out an assumption. Basically, if we break prior all-time highs and we actually confidently break above them, and that's actually when the real froth starts, where Bitcoin makes this move towards a parabolic blow off top, maybe you've got 3 to 9 months before that happens after it breaks the prior all-time high. So if we break it in March, then we could see the entire cycle, top out inside of 2024, which is not what people expect. They expect it to happen in 2025. Okay, this nice predictable schedule, right? So what type of prices could we see? Well, basically, we're just looking at what most of the Bitcoin price targets are for the cycle applied to 2024 or maybe slightly into 2025. So what are some of those price targets? Well, the really easy one that people like to talk about is Bitcoin going to 100K. All right, they've been talking about that since the last cycle. Okay. And obviously that doesn't get people that excited because that's only roughly a 2x from what we're talking about right now at the time I record this video. But there is lots of reasons to think that Bitcoin could go higher than that. So what are some of those price targets? Again, it's not financial advice. I'm just going to analyze this. Well, there's a lot of thoughts that basically the entire crypto market in terms of the market cap could go to about $10 trillion during this cycle. And if the entire crypto market cap does do that, then what tends to happen during this time is that Bitcoin, sort of leads the charge, all right? And then you see Bitcoin dominance start to go up, all right? And then Bitcoin dominance goes down. So what is Bitcoin dominance? It's basically the entire sort of market share that Bitcoin has for the entire crypto market. So during the last bull market, you could see, it was there about 60% and then kind of dropped off, all right? And we're getting close to that 60% mark again. So basically, if Bitcoin makes a big move and has a big, sort of mid-cycle top during that cycle, and let's say it just goes to 60% again when it's at its highest valuation. If the entire crypto market cap goes to $10 trillion, then 60% of that would be $6 trillion. Let's back that off even more conservatively, say things have diminishing returns. Let's say it only goes to 50% dominance when it's at its peak. At a $5 trillion market cap, that would put Bitcoin right at 5 times its current valuation, roughly speaking. So about $250,000. Now, that's a pretty high valuation. And that's kind of probably what I'd see as the potential upper limit for something like this. So let's call it a range, somewhere of a range of $100,000 to $250,000. And again, nobody's got a crystal ball to know for sure, but those are some of the parameters to kind of think about with what I could reasonably see happening. All right, so now let's talk about some potential explanations for why this could be happening. If crypto is breaking out of the 4-year cycle, maybe superstition, then what could cause us to have a faster, more compressed cycle this time around? Well, a couple of explanations. One is potentially that the ETFs just launched are having a significant impact on the markets. There's actually some fundamental buying pressure there. And that as that snowball gets rolling, you can still buy Bitcoin in the open markets. It's a very reflexive asset and therefore can go parabolic really quickly. Another potential explanation is that Bitcoin might have actually tried to do this type of thing in 2020 and had a shorter cycle, but that got cut short because of course, all the global events that were happening in 2020 that I won't say by name because there's a superstition that YouTube is going to, flag my video. Because you can see the price dumped in March of 2020 and we slowly grinded up before we took that off. But if we never had this, perhaps Bitcoin could have made that move a lot sooner. But there's 2 more explanations that I think are much more plausible in this case. Okay, the first potential explanation is that, Bitcoin's price has never actually followed the halving. That's just been a coincidence. And that, the real mover of the needle has been global liquidity, which is always growing and shrinking, and that the Bitcoin cycles pretty much follow that pattern. And the other final explanation, and this is one that I think is the most plausible, is that maybe the 4-year cycle is just a pure coincidence and that crypto basically is just a reflexive asset class that goes up really fast and then goes down even faster. And it simply takes periods of time for old buyers to shake off their PTSD and for new participants to come into the market and for new technology and narratives to emerge. So basically you need space in between these cycles, but it's not always necessarily going to be on this, predictable 4-year time frame. Maybe it's shorter, maybe it's even longer. So let me know what you think down in the comment section below. Are we in fact on track for a super predictable 4-year crypto cycle? Or are we having something totally different? Is it going to be a lot sooner than people anticipate? Is it going to be longer than people anticipate? One potential caveat is we break the all-time high and then actually get rejected and spend some time below it before we confidently break over it a second time. It's happened before. So I want to hear from you. And whenever you're finished, make sure you smash the like button down below, subscribe to this channel. And don't forget, crypto markets definitely are a great way to make some impressive investment returns, but the best investment you can make is in yourself. And the best way to make life-changing money with crypto is to double down on your technical skills and to become a blockchain developer. And I can show you how to do that step-by-step start to finish over at dappuniversity.com/bootcamp. You really don't have to be an expert to get started today. I've helped people with zero coding experience become real-world blockchain developers in a matter of months. So that's all I've got. Until next time, thanks for watching Dapp University.